Welcome to Eagle News. Hello, I'm Julia.
And I'm Nathra.
We're so glad you could join us today. In today's episode, we will report about Eversole Run Middle School news, national news, Ohio news, teacher-focused science news, riddles, technology news, and much, much more.
In world news, the ingenuity of a Boy Scout from Hawaii helped save a couple and their injured dog after they got lost on a hiking trail in Oahu. Amy and JD were hiking the Waimano Trail with their pit bull Smokey when they took a wrong turn. The couple ended up on a different trail, which is longer and more difficult. They did not have any cell phone service and did not have enough food or water. Things got even worse when Smokey injured his paws and was having a hard time walking. Luckily for the couple, 12-year-old David King and his mom Christine happened to be hiking on the same trail. JD was trying to carry Smokey on his back but was struggling because of the dog's weight. David suggested building a stretcher so they could carry Smokey through the woods.
In National Day calendar news, today is National Roof Over Your Head Day and Long-Eared Dog Day.
In Eversole Run news, Lost and Found. If you have lost or misplaced an item while at school, please check the large collection of Lost and Found down in the comments. We have a large amount of water bottles, clothing, shoes, etc. waiting to be claimed. All items left unclaimed by December 16th will be donated to charity over winter break.
In language arts news, what is tone in writing? Everything you read has a tone. Blog posts will have an engaging and conversational tone. Textbooks often have an informative, matter-of-fact tone. A piece of satire might have a humorous or ironic tone. Tone in literature encompasses the wide variety of moods, thoughts, and feelings the author imbue their work with. In Eagle Sports news, our winter sports program was in full swing last week, and it was a tremendous success. Our wrestling team had their first match last Wednesday as they traveled to Dublin South to compete in a tri-meet. The boys defeated the Shamrocks 53-38, and Olentangy Orange 66-24. What a great way to start their season. Great job. The boys basketball program broke into the win column last week with Thursday night victories on the road at Delaware Dempsey. Our 7th grade girls basketball team remains unbeaten with victories over Olentangy Hyatts and Delaware Dempsey this past week. Our 8th grade girls took a couple of close losses this week, but we look forward to righting the ship next week versus Worthingway and Worthington Kilbourne. Congratulations to the competition cheerleading squad as they placed first in the OASSA state competition Sunday at Big Walnut High School. Now for this weekend's weather. Hey, this is this weekend's weather. On Friday, we have a high of 49, a low of 38, and a 50% chance of rain.
On Saturday, we have a high of 48, a low of 39, and a 20% chance of rain. And on Sunday, we have a high of 45, a low of 32, and a 30% chance of rain. That's this weekend's weather. Have a good weekend.
In science news, what are elements? An element is a substance that cannot be broken down into any other substance. There are about 100 elements, each with its own type of atom. Everything in the universe contains the atoms of at least one or more elements. The periodic table lists all the known elements, grouping together those with similar properties. Most elements are metals, which are shiny and conduct electricity well. Metals include gold, aluminum, and iron, which are all solid at room temperature. Mercury is the only metal that is liquid at room temperature. Some elements are nonmetals. Most nonmetals are gases at room temperature and do not conduct electricity. Nonmetal elements with these properties include oxygen, hydrogen, and chlorine. A few nonmetals, such as carbon and sulfur, are in a solid state at room temperature. In math news, what are cube roots? When we think about the words cube and root, the first picture that might come to our mind is a literal cube in the roots of a tree, isn't it? Well, the idea is similar. Root means the primary source or origin, so we just need to think cube of which number should be taken to get the given number. In mathematics, the definition of cube root is written as cube root is the number that needs to be multiplied 3 times to get the original number.
In social studies news, what was the Dust Bowl? The Dust Bowl was an area in the Midwest that suffered from drought during the 1930s and the Great Depression. The soil became so dry that it turned into dust. Farmers could no longer grow crops as the land turned into a desert. Areas of Kansas, Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico were all part of the Dust Bowl. But how did it get so dusty? A number of factors contributed to the Dust Bowl. The first was a terrible drought that lasted for many years. With so little rain, the soil dried out. Also, much of the region had been plowed up by farmers to grow wheat or to graze cattle. The wheat did not anchor the soil or help hold moisture. After years of abuse, the topsoil was destroyed and turned into dust. The federal government implemented programs to help the farmers that stayed in the Dust Bowl. They taught farmers proper farming practices to help preserve the soil. They also purchased some land to let it regenerate in order to prevent future dust storms. It took some time, but much of the land had recovered by the early 1940s.
In social and emotional news, why is listening important? Listening isn't just about staying quiet. It means really absorbing what someone else is saying. Listening is also a critical component of healthy communication. After all, much of the learning in school depends on a child's ability to listen to what the teacher is saying.
This is this week's Eagle Recognition Award winners. Owen Greel for being service-minded and ownership by Mrs. Phelps.
Hayden Waltis by being service-minded by Mr. Armstrong.
Caroline Loffenberg for being service-minded by Mrs. Browser.
Elise Fakir by being service-minded by Mrs. Burkhaw.
Emily Swinnerton for being service-minded by Mrs. Dishock.
Bella Marshall by having acceptance by Mrs. Steckel.
Ava Lytle for being service-minded and for having ownership, acceptance, and respect by Mrs. Grieco.
Chase Fritter by having ownership by Mrs. Jurger.
Sophia Titz for having service-minded, ownership, and respect by Mr. Simmons.
Livy Bogus by having acceptance by Mrs. DeWitt. That's the Eagle News for today. If you have a story you would like to have featured on Eagle News, please let Mr. McNeil know. Here at Eversole, we are creating a community of excellence by being positive, working hard, and respecting the uniqueness of ourselves and each other. Have an amazing day.